Hi there, dance studio owners, and welcome to a very special 4-part series of the Transform My Dance Studio podcast. Over the next 4 weeks, you'll be joining Clint and some very special guest experts for our Preschool Dance Party podcast. Before we dive into today's episode of Preschool Dance Party, we are so thrilled to be introducing our brand new plug-and-play preschool program for 3 to 6-year-olds. Dancely is a one-stop shop where studio owners from around the world can get everything you need to run a successful preschool dance program with one click. Having access to Dancely every month allows you to do so much more than you would be able to otherwise. Dancely comes with all the class lesson plans, choreography, and amazing original music you need to run a fun and profitable preschool dance program. It's also got all the marketing tools and branding resources you need to attract, enroll, and retain your new students. Join Dancely today by registering at dsoa.com/Dancely. That's dsoa.com/DANCELY. If you want to be among the first to incorporate this brand new done-for-you plug-and-play preschool program into your dance studio, sign up for Dancely today. Now, on to today's episode with your hosts, Clint Salter and Shannon Westveer.
Hello, everyone. It's Shannon Westveer, Inner Circle Program Manager for the DSOA, and I want to welcome you to our final episode of the Preschool Dance Party series. This is one of my favorite topics as we get to talk about the little joys inside of your studio, the preschoolers. It's important to have, the right mix of teachers, music, and curriculum so that these dancers stay with you for many years. Today, I have the pleasure of bringing you Kirby Shields. She is owner of Higher Movement Dance with Me, and she really just seems to be a shining light in her studio when she talks about her preschool dancers. She loves teaching them and really understands what it takes to have a successful preschool program. So Kirby, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and to talk about preschool classes. So thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm just going to kick it off with, why do you think a preschool dance program is so important to have at your studio?
Sure. So I find that the preschool program is one of the most important parts, if not the most important part of my studio, just because it's the base of the studio. It really helps us to grow. When kids are younger, I find that they're, trying out soccer and dance and gymnastics and seeing kind of what is for them. So it's a great way to get them in the door, but then from there, you want to keep them as well with the retention. Retaining more of them when they're trying things out is better than the older ones. They're not as interested. They usually are already decided what they want to do as far as sports and extracurriculars. So just, it's nice to have that base with the young ones and then to retain them to help your business as they get older.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And it is so true. It's like some studio owners do think more about, I guess I should say, kind of the older students or competitive dance. Sure. And sometimes preschoolers get forgotten about. So
it's true.
I do think,
it's true. Yeah. You think they'll kind of just come, but then when you think about it, that really is. And if you talk to people that have preschool age kids, they're trying out so many different things. They're not, stuck to one thing yet. So you want to, let them try it out and let that be the thing they choose as they get older. So
yeah, absolutely. What is it about your preschool program that you think engages your students the most? Like, what does your program entail?
Sure. So when I first started teaching preschool classes, I had taught older classes before. So I started doing them similar to that. And I realized, wow, this is not working. So I realized that they really, obviously much more than the younger kids or the older kids, need structure, and they need to have something that's familiar every single week. So they'll come in and for at least 8 weeks, we'll do, basically the same thing. And then the next 8 weeks, maybe we'll switch up 1 or 2 songs, but it's really just that, something that they're used to. The routine in class and things is really big. And then the teachers as well. I find that teachers that are very creative, very interactive, very visual, do a lot better than teachers that are just going to be like, this is a plie, this is a tendu. So we really need to give them those visuals and just make sure it's interactive for them.
And while you're kind of talking about teachers, what do you feel like you look for in a teacher at your studio?
Yeah. So I really look for someone that obviously is going to be engaging, that loves to dance. But for the preschool side of it, like someone that really likes kids and understands them. especially the preschoolers. We need someone that's going to understand, when they scream out random things in class, or when they want to compare it to, their breakfast this morning or whatever that might be. Someone that's going to take that and be like, okay, and kind of gear them back, but also maybe incorporate it into their dance moves, and give them a visual, because the kids are very, like I was saying, visual. And it's easier to say, and we all say this, I'm sure, but hold your beach ball in first position rather than, put your arms in a circle. They really need to visualize that. So someone that can make the classes creative, or maybe theme the classes every week, that's I found to be really helpful when hiring teachers.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are some of the themes that you feel like have worked best for your studio in the past?
Yeah, so every year we do a summer fun week, and that's like one of the biggest things. It helps us to promote our summer programs, but we also will like get beach balls, and we put up palm trees in the studio, and everything is summer related, whether they're surfing or they're swimming. The little ones, I'll be like, move like a fish, move like an octopus, just to get them moving and coming up with something creative that gets them moving. So summer or like beach themed has been really good. We also have done, obviously animals are huge. They love their animals. I've done specifically farm weeks before. Right now at camp, we're doing like a mystical wonderland. So mermaids, fairies, unicorns, anything like that, just to, get them thinking, and things that they already love to talk about. So,
yeah. And I love that. I think the themes is definitely the way to go. And it's, we were just talking about this earlier today on our preschool webinar about how you can really, if I feel like sometimes teachers or studio owners get stuck, with what do we choose, or they try to get way out of the box. And so then they're stuck even more.
Yep.
But you can really kind of walk outside, and look at the world and come up with something that a preschooler would be attracted to. And
absolutely. So yeah,
I love that. And how do you, as far as your themes and working with, I know you talked about the type of teachers and then moving into the themes. What do you find is most successful in training your teachers to do your curriculum, your themes?
Sure.
What's that process?
Yeah. So we have never really followed a specific, curriculum or anything yet until now. But what I would do is I would have my teachers, my preschool teachers, we'd sit down and we would go, okay, what do we want to teach these kids throughout the year? Like, these are the steps that we would teach a 3 to 5 year old. And then from there, we would break it down into quarters and be like, okay, quarter 1, we want to teach X, Y, and Z steps. Quarter 2, we're going to do the same steps, but add on a couple more and go like that. So that way, everyone's still allowed to teach their own way, because everyone teaches a little bit differently, but teaching the same steps, maybe just a little bit differently. So we just take the whole year, break it down, and then I'd, like I said, go over it with my preschool instructors, and everyone would get a copy of, okay, quarter 1, these are the steps, so that when they create their class plan for the week or the 8 weeks at a time, they would go ahead and have that already written down, and we're all on the same page teaching the same things.
That's so great. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Of course.
What kind of unique things are you doing currently in your studio? Are you trying anything new? Are you doing, I know it's summer, so obviously it's, sometimes studio owners kind of dabble in different things. And is there anything different that you're doing right now with your preschoolers?
Sure. So we are actually doing, our camps have been a little bit different this year. Instead of doing one theme, we've been doing multiple themes throughout the day of camp. So that's been really good, just because it kind of switches gears, and we don't have to, it's easier for us when planning as well, just because we have multiple things we can focus on, not just one. But we have started using Dancely, and the kids have loved it. Like I said, when I started teaching preschool classes, that's when I realized, okay, we can't just do, classical ballet music the entire time. We can't just use, typical tap songs. We need something that's fun, something that's interactive, and something that's going to get the kids at least following along. Because sometimes maybe they don't want to listen to me anymore. So at least hearing something or someone else is good for them. So we started using Dancely back in May, and the kids love it. But it's also has been so great just because they're not just learning, like they're not just following along and just watching or listening to something. They're like actually learning steps that I would be teaching them that go along with my class plans. Obviously, we teach gallops and chassés, so some of the songs use those and things like that. So that's been great. And it, like, the themes as well have gone along with what we normally do. So it just kind of fit right in perfectly, and that's been awesome. So.
Yeah, that's great. And you were talking a lot about music, and obviously, Dancely embodies unique songs.
Sure.
But what is it that you think needs to be included in music, or what type of music to really engage your preschoolers, and keep them coming back?
Sure. So I think a good mix, again, pretty much repetitive. Like I'll switch in and out a couple songs each week, but really using the same songs. We'll use the same song for pliés, the same song for like across the floor. But I find that mixing it up. So we'll start off with maybe something a little bit slower while we're stretching. And then we have a follow along song for pliés. This is for our ballet tap class, excuse me. And then we will usually go into the same songs. If I lose them, that's kind of when I switch over, sometimes we lose the attention there. So we'll switch over to a Dancely song, or we'll switch to something that's just follow along. And then we'll go back to our normal songs, and I like to use, of course, Disney music. That's like the go-to. But any kids music, and then I throw in those, follow along songs, and they say what to do. Or I make it up, but it kind of tells us what to do, and then we base it off of that.
Yeah, amazing. And when you're kind of teaching the kids, do you have any tips and tricks besides just changing up the music or kind of shifting gears, for bringing the kids back, for kind of re-engaging or getting them?
Sure. Yeah. So a couple of my favorite things to do, is I'll get low to the ground, and I will whisper, and I'll wait because eventually a couple of them will hear me, and then I'll wait till they can all hear me whispering. Another thing I like to do is if I'm losing them, I will touch my head and say, if you can hear me, touch your head. If you can hear me, touch your shoulders. And then they start doing it. And then once again, a couple people are doing it, the other kids will pick up and notice, oh, I should be doing that also. So those are probably my biggest go-tos. Once in a while, we'll have to sit quietly for a minute until we're ready. And then we'll, come back up. But usually just getting them to follow me, when they're not listening, kind of out of control. Just little things like touch your head, touch your nose. If you hear me touch this, do this. That usually helps.
Awesome. Yeah, I know it's so easy to lose a preschooler's attention, but it's also pretty easy to get it back. If you know the right techniques.
Yeah. Or give them some wands or some props. Props are a good one also. I'll be like, okay, it's time for wands, and we'll do some wands and leaps and things like that.
Yes. That's so great. You mentioned a little bit ago about Dancely, that you've been trialing that program. What do you think is the difference between Dancely and other preschool programs that maybe you've trialed or not or heard about?
Yeah. So I have found that, again, it's not just pat your head, touch your knees. It's very much, it has a curriculum that it follows, and it really is things that we're teaching the kids already. So it's a great way of, again, having them do something fun and getting them more engaged, but also learning steps that, again, I would have been teaching them. So that has been great. And it just, I don't know, it just fit right in so perfectly as far as, like I said, themes and music. And I just like that it's not just random steps. There's a reason behind them, and you're doing everything in the song for a reason. And I also like the coordination, because they're going to have to think about what the song is saying and then do it. It all goes together and makes a lot of sense. So I think that that's good for them as well to process and be like, oh, they're saying this. Now it's time to do this. So I think that's very helpful also.
Awesome. So great. So many golden nuggets in all you're telling us, Kirby. So thank you.
Thank you.
And then kind of what about your, the developmental milestones of kids? Do you feel like you have a good handle on that? How do you train your teachers to know, kind of what to do in a moment of crisis in a classroom?
Yeah, sure.
where they kind of can help?
Yeah. So I like to maybe have some assistance as well in there. So, some kids are going to be a bit more advanced than others, which is fine. But I feel like just letting them go at their own pace and, being able to have modifications for them is also helpful. So, I will let the kids that are like if I show it once and they're ready to go, I let them go. And the other ones, I'll stand with them and we'll go through it slowly and, get them to where they need to be, even if it's not the same exact step, as long as it's a step that's going to get there, get them to that, harder step. We will do that with them. And my teachers are pretty good about that as well. We'll do pretty similar things, we do a lot of one-on-one. We'll have the kids maybe sit with like an assistant for a little bit and do a couple of things while we focus one at a time on each student, to bring them up to where they need to be and make sure we know what they're struggling with and what they're not struggling with.
Yeah. No, I love that. It's so important to know that and recognize it in the classroom. And so it sounds like
absolutely
you and your teachers have a great handle on that.
Thank you.
What would be your advice? So I know you teach this age group, but
sure.
Obviously, we all talk about studio owners. You have to sometimes, start to give up some of your teaching hours so that you can,
sure.
Be the CEO of your business.
Sure.
And how has that been for you? And what would be your advice in studio owners who are teaching everything and kind of just, slowly need to give that away to
sure.
start teachers?
Yeah, so I am definitely working on that. That's a work in progress. So we'll get there. But no, I know that it's worth it, just because the time that I've gotten back has been so great. I'm just able to focus on things that are more important and things that I need to be doing. When I'm teaching constantly, I don't have time to do the things that run the everyday of the business. And I'm also trying to offload some of the everyday tasks as well, as far as office management and things like that. But having the teachers, and as long as you're training them and trusting them, and as long as I find that I really need to make sure that sometimes I'll keep things in. I really need to tell them exactly how I feel. And I've started to do that more and more since joining the inner circle. And then it ends up being how I want, right? If I keep it in, they're not going to know what I want or what my expectations are. So really just, clarifying my expectations, telling them what my expectations are. It's been really easy. And I feel a lot more comfortable giving up my classes, instead of keeping them. So it's been helpful, as long as I do those things. But then it helps me to get other work done and not have to constantly be in the classroom teaching. So.
Yeah, transparency is huge. I'm so glad you brought that up because it is. It's sometimes, I think, especially as women business owners, we're afraid, to share the 100% truth.
Sure.
But that's the only way you're going to get, exactly what you want. And then in turn, make them happy as well.
Correct. And I found that in doing that, they, respect me a lot more, because they understand where I'm coming from and they understand, and I also found just transparency across the board, whether it's parents or staff, just fully explaining why I'm doing something. Like, this is my decision, but this is why, has been so big, just because people are like, oh, okay, now I understand. It's not just because I said so. They're like, actually understand what I mean and why I'm doing it that way. So.
Yeah. Well, and on that note, while you mentioned parents really quickly, what has been feedback that you've gained from kind of your community on your preschool program and what they're looking for and what they're enjoying about your studio?
Sure. Yeah. So parents have really liked the fact, that they're very interactive. They say that, they're happy, they're comfortable sending our kids. We like to provide a really friendly, welcoming environment. Growing up, I didn't, I saw a bunch of studios that wasn't always the case. And I wanted to make sure that my studio was welcoming, friendly, everyone felt comfortable. I know every single parent, that I can make sure that they're comfortable with me. They know my teachers, so just making sure that they're comfortable. The parents really like I said, the structure of the classes, and how we handle the discipline part of it as well. So that's been great. And like I said, pretty much just, being open and transparent with them as well, making sure they feel welcome, making sure all their questions are answered. And just, really taking time as well to engage with them has been important to make sure they know us and understand what we're about and, who we are as a studio.
Yeah. Love it. So true. So true. Well, Kirby, I think I just have one kind of final thing for you. If you could give, studio owners one thing about what they need to make their preschool program profitable, what do you think that would be? Yeah.
So, a couple of things that I've done recently that have been great. One, I would say, try to offer classes back to back. When we first started, we did not offer a preschool hip hop class. I was like, what preschooler is going to take hip hop? A couple of parents suggested it after a survey, and I was like, sure. And it was probably the biggest class last year that we had. And we offered it right after a combo ballet tap class. So that was huge because kids would just do the 3 right in a row. So I would say to put your classes back to back if possible. And then, it's okay to have a big class. I think that's something that I had to get over as well. It's okay to have a big class. Just make sure you have assistants in there or someone that can help. You don't need to do 10 small classes. You can have bigger classes and it's okay. And the kids can still get individualized attention, but just make sure that, there's an assistant in there, choose a number, whether it's 10, 12 kids, and have someone else in there to help the teacher, but bigger classes are okay. And I think I had to really learn that myself. So.
Yeah, definitely. I know. And there's kind of a lot of different, trains of thought around that, but we always had really big classes at our studio too. And it takes the right teacher and yes, of course, an assistant to keep that energy, but it's good. It's good for the kids. They're used to having, especially in bigger markets, they're used to having so many kids in their school class.
Sure.
And so, I think it's good for the energy.
Absolutely.
Well, Kirby, thank you for joining us for our final episode of the Preschool Dance Party. Yes, we're in the middle actually of our Powerhouse Preschool Dance Workshop this week. And we've been talking about the 6 pillars to a profitable and playful preschool dance program. But Kirby, any other advice that you have to give before we go?
No, I would just say really figure out what works for you in your studio as far as preschool program, as far as what you want for your teachers. Give the teachers evaluations and make sure, because again, that's the base of your studio. So just make sure that your preschool program is what you want it to be. And whether you follow a specific curriculum or not, just make sure that everyone in the preschool program and preschool staff is on the same page.
Yes, definitely. And where can listeners go to find out more about the amazing things that you are doing at your studio?
Sure. So my studio is Higher Movement Dance Studio. You can find us on Facebook. It's Higher Movement LLC, and on Instagram at Higher Movement. So thank you.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, so much goodness. Thank you for your wisdom and your knowledge. If you want to find out more about our Dancely preschool program, preschool dance program, you can go to dsoa.com/Dancely. And that is DANCELY, just in case. But other than that, have a great day. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Preschool Dance Party as part of the Transform My Dance Studio podcast. If you're ready to fill your preschool dance classes, don't forget to register for Dancely today at dsoa.com/Dancely. This brand new plug-and-play preschool program comes with all the class lesson plans, choreography, and amazing music you need to run a fun and profitable preschool dance program. It's also got all the marketing tools and branding resources you need to attract, enroll, and retain your new students. There's nothing else like this in the industry right now, and you could be among the first to offer this polished and professional preschool dance program in your area. Find out more at dsoa.com/Dancely. See you next week for our next episode of the Transform My Dance Studio podcast.